Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today will be a card review of the Gambit Hero Pack. So far, with the exception of Wolverine, the X-Men cycle's been a bit of a disappointment. Shadowcat's been good, but the X-Men synergy has been a little underwhelming compared to the Web Warriors. The X-Men really lack an ally like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, who's one of the best allies in the game, and really elevates the whole synergy. With these last two hero packs of the cycle, Gambit and Rogue, I'd like to see strong heroes. I'd also like to see the X-Men synergy get developed further. So let's take a look and see what we got. Gambit's alter ego is Remy LeBeau. 3 recovery, 6 hand size, 9 hit points. Action, thwart, exhaust Remy LeBeau, and look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck. Discard one of those cards, remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of boost icons on that card. Interesting, so he can thwart from the alter ego, but he has to exhaust to do it. That's new. Never seen anything like that before. Does he have low thwart on his hero side? Yeah, he has 1 thwart. So in order to thwart, they do give him the ability to go beyond his 1 thwart, but he has to flip to alter ego to do it. Well, here's the issue with alter ego, and it's the issue with every hero that needs to flip to alter ego. Alter ego is inefficient because when you're in alter ego, the villain is going to scheme. And a typical villain scheme value would be 2. Some have 3 if they're in stage 3. 1 or 2 have 1, but really only very early in the game's life cycle. 2 is the most common. And I don't know what the average number of boost icons is, but I would guess that it's 2 or something thereabouts, maybe like 1.5 to 2. So you can count on 4 threat coming down on the main scheme if you flip to alter ego, if you're playing solo. And if 4 threat comes down on the alter ego, well, depending on what scenario you're playing against, that may virtually guarantee that you will advance to phase 2. Some schemes only have 5 threat per player, and you get 1 automatically, and so if you advance the scheme by 4, you're guaranteed to, or if you put 4 threat on the main scheme, you're guaranteed to advance the main scheme. And that usually comes with its own cost in terms of, like, for example, Crossbones is stage 1 of the main scheme, has only 3 threat per player. So the same turn that you go to alter ego, you are guaranteed to advance the scheme, which means another card from the experimental weapons deck, which means you have to spend more resources to take care of it or ignore it and take the higher damage or whatever else the card may do. So if you flip to alter ego to use Remy LeBeau's thwarting ability, at the least you're guaranteed to add 4 threat to the main scheme. Now, can Remy LeBeau do enough in his alter ego mode to overcome that disadvantage of adding 4 threat to the main scheme? Well, if he's looking at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and discarding one of those cards, he's probably removing 2 threat from the main scheme, maybe 3. So you're adding 4 threat to the main scheme by flipping to alter ego and only removing 2. That's bad. If you didn't have to exhaust him to use it, that would be decent, because you could remove the threat and recover. And I really don't think you should have to exhaust Remy LeBeau to use it, frankly, because let's say you got 2 in recovery value, or you get 3 in recovery value, plus you got 2 threat removal. That's 5 in total value. Wolverine recovers for 6. Spider-Ham recovers for 5 and generates a resource. You're still not looking at something overpowered if he could do that. So having to exhaust, it's not good. It's not a good ability. Let's take a look at what else he can do. He has 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense. Action, place 1 charge counter here once per round. Okay. When you play an attack event, remove up to 3 charge counters from here. That event deals +1 damage for each counter removed. Well, that's a pretty good ability. 3 defense is great. Nearly every hero that has 3 defense, every hero that I can think of that has 3 defense is at least playable, skewing toward very strong or S tier. Playable is their low end, S tier is their high end. So having 3 defense, that's very good. And this attack ability is pretty good. Thwarting is going to be his main concern, and let's see what help he gets from his hero cards concerning thwart. If he has to rely on flipping to alter ego to thwart, that's not good. His hero-specific ally is Rogue, 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, reduce the cost to play Rogue by 1 for each charge counter on your identity, and she has toughness. Why is she chasing that bird? Anyway, so you can have up to 3 charge counters, so that means you could reduce the cost of Rogue to 1. What do you need her to cost for her to be strong? 3 would be fine. At 3, she's exceptional. And that's not hard to do at all. If you drop her to 2, she's one of the best allies in the game. 1, yeah, is overkill. So this is a really, really strong hero-specific ally. Really, really good. Among the best hero-specific allies in the game. Among the best allies in the game. She's going to challenge Peter Parker for that. With this kind of value. The Thieves Guild. 1 cost support. Alter ego response. After you resolve your Thief Extraordinaire ability, exhaust the Thieves Guild. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, draw 1 card. Not super easy to set up, but if you can set it up, that's very good value. But the caveat is that it forces you to go to alter ego. He does already have the ability to get value out of his alter ego, but you need to reliably get like 8 or so in value in order to want to flip to alter ego. And even with the Thieves Guild, you're not getting there. If you flip to alter ego with Remy, use his ability as Thief Extraordinaire, and you get, let's say, 2 or 3 threat removed, and then you use the Thieves Guild for 1 more threat removed, and you draw a card. That's like, I don't know, 5 or so in value is how I would evaluate that. Not enough. We need even more. And if we need an additional card beyond this one, we're talking about a 3-card combo, and this is only 1 card in 40. So this needing to flip to alter ego, the 3 defense is great. The attack ability is great. The thwarting looks pretty weak, though. Looks like it'll be a problem in solo. Heroes that are designed needing to flip to alter ego to take full advantage of them, they end up not being very good in solo, nearly universally. With the exception of Spider-Ham, who gets incredible value from his alter ego ability with 5 recovery and 1 resource generated. And also, I mean, Wolverine is borderline with his just 6 recovery. Very borderline. That's like the low end of what you want from an alter ego ability in order to actually be able to do it, to use it in solo play. So we need more from his alter ego in order to say we're looking at an S tier hero for sure. Gambit Staff, 1 cost upgrade. When an enemy attacks, exhaust Gambit Staff, deal 1 damage to that enemy. So it's not retaliate because you can only use it once per round. You'd need to use this like 4 times. Which you'll be able to because you probably want to run protection on Gambit to take advantage of his strong defense. So this is fine. Nothing exceptional except in a very long game, but it's fine. Gambit's Guild Armor, 1 cost upgrade. After Gambit defends against an attack and takes no damage, exhaust Gambit's Guild Armor, ready Gambit. That's strong because you're going to want to run protection, and protection already has cards that benefit from defending against an attack and taking no damage. So this synergizes with those. So this is a very good readying ability. I like it. charged card, 2-cost event, deal 4 damage to an enemy for this attack if Gambit's throw D card, ability removed at least 1 counter, this attack gains ranged, 2 counters, this attack gains piercing, 3 counters, this attack gains overkill, plus you get to buff the event. Well, the damage alone is not good for the cost. So the value of this card is going to come from its versatility. And generally cards that sacrifice power for versatility are not good in solo. It seems like we're looking at yet another multiplayer focused hero with his reliance on his alter ego and the versatility of this card. But let's keep going and we'll see. We get 3 charged cards. We get Royal Flush, 3-cost event, place 1 charge counter on Gambit. But you can't then use that counter for this card, right? This is an interrupt when you play an attack event. What is the timing on that? Okay, so the counter generated by this card cannot be removed or cannot be used to buff the card, Royal Flush. That's expected. It's also a little bit confusing, but it's fine. It just helps offset up the cost of the counters that you spent. So you deal 0 damage, deal 0 damage, deal 0 damage. Clearly that is the worst card in the game if you don't use charge counters on it. But let's say you use 3 charge counters, you get 9 damage. That's good. If you use 2 and you get 6, that's not very good. So you really need to use 3 for this to be good. In which case it is good. But it's bad and then requires you to use Gambit's hero power to buff it. I'm not a big fan of that. I would prefer for it to be good and then Gambit's hero power makes it exceptional. I can't think of a way to do that though, from a design point of view. So I don't know, it makes sense. I guess you can't really talk about Gambit's attack cards without talking about his hero power. Charged card would deal 7 damage with 3 counters, but then you can't like charged counter and Royal Flush in the same round. You're doing one or the other. Actually, probably not every other round either, because you need time to build up those charge counters. Interesting. He's going to require playtesting to see how he feels for sure. Natural agility. When you defend against an attack, place 1 charge counter on Gambit. For each charge counter, you get +1 defense. So that has reverse synergy with his attack cards that want to remove charge counters. But we are looking at what to me looks like a very strong defensive hero with his ability to ready after he takes no damage, natural agility, his 3 defense. A hero that's going to do a lot defensively, periodically do a big attack, and be terrible at thwarting. Creole Charmer, 2-cost event, alter ego action thwart, removes 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, confuse the villain. Okay. This is good value for this, but the caveat of being forced to switch to alter ego reduces its value. This is a complicated hero. We're definitely going to need to playtest him to make a determination on whether Gambit is good or not. Because we're going to need to see how big of a limitation flipping to alter ego to thwart actually is. And that's going to be dependent on the scenario. Scenarios with a lot of side quests may be a problem for Gambit. But they may not. We may be looking at a really strong hero. How many of those Creole Charmers does he get? He gets 2. And then the last card is Molecular Acceleration. When you spend this card, place 1 charge counter. Okay, that's fine. Interesting. Very interesting hero. Well, he's got a lot of potential with that 3 defense and with the strong defense cards. Then he's periodically going to be able to do a big attack. The biggest question mark is thwarting. How's that going to work in a solo game? How's it going to work if he doesn't have Creole Charmer or his Thieves Guild. He's always going to be good on defense. He's sporadically going to be good on offense. The thwarting is a big question mark. I think we're definitely looking at a hero that's on the stronger side. How strong is he going to be? We'll need to test him. This isn't a hero that I can make a recommendation on just based on looking at his hero cards alone. I'll need to play him, so I'll withhold my judgment until I've played him. But I'm intrigued by this hero, and I'm looking forward to playing him. Looks like a lot of fun, at least. And I hope he's strong, and he definitely has the potential. Let's take a look at his aspect cards, the aspect cards that come with him. Justice, okay, well, Bishop, 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 0 attack. After an enemy attacks, you place 1 energy counter here. When Bishop attacks, remove each energy counter from him. For each counter discarded this way, he gets +2 attack. For this attack, to a maximum of 6. So after an enemy attacks you, doesn't have to attack Bishop. Okay, so you play him, you let him sit on the table until he has 3 counters. Then you attack for 6, and then you use him to chump block, or you could attack for 6 twice. If you do that, if you play Bishop, let him charge up to 6, attack, then let him charge up to 6 again and attack. That's very, very strong value. 12 damage for 3 cost is very, very good. Very, very good. This is the best ally in Justice. One of the best in the game. This buffs Justice a lot and is badly needed. You could also dwarf for 2. If you did that twice and then chump blocked, it's functional, but attacking twice for 6 is incredible. So if you leave him on the table long enough, he's going to generate really, really good value. I like him. Dazzler. Allison Blair, 4 cost. 2 thwart, 2 attack. After Dazzler enters play, confuse an enemy. She's good. You get good value for her. Nothing exceptional, but good value. 4 cost is steep. But she does pay that off, and she's definitely worth including in a Justice deck. I like her. Even if you're not playing X-Men, she's good. So is Bishop, even if you're not playing X-Men. Maybe they want you to go Justice with Gambit because of the inconsistent thwarting, but I mean, it's got to be protection for solo play, right? There's so much synergy there. Operative Skill. 2-cost upgrade, uses 3 operative counters, max 1 per player. When you thwart, remove 1 operative counter from here. That thwart removes 1 additional threat. Why would you ever play that over Surveillance Team? Surveillance Team removes 1 threat per round, a total of 3 for a 2 cost, and you don't have to thwart to use it. This isn't good value for the cost, and I don't know why you would ever play it because there's a card that does something similar but better already. So I'm confused by this card. Stealth Strike, 3-cost event. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. If that enemy is defeated, remove 2 threat. That's not enough value for the cost, 4 + 2. That's pretty weak. Probably the reason it's weak is because it's an attack event out of Justice. Attack events off, or any kind of events off aspect. Attacking out of Justice or protection, or threat removal out of aggression or protection, they tend to be weak because they're off aspect. So I don't really like to play those types of cards. They're versatility at the expense of power. Breaking and Entering, 2-cost event. Play only if your identity has the Spy or Thief trait. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. Wait, what? Why does it require you to have the spy or the thief threat? That's not a very large benefit. These last two cards, they're like things we've... No, not last two, but operative skill and breaking and entering have kind of odd requirements on them given their relatively modest gains. I don't get it. Typically, if you're going to put requirements on a card, it will have benefits to offset the requirements. Like you have difficulty in setting it up, but then you get a lot of benefit out of it. Not the case with this card. Having your identity have spy or thief isn't a huge downside, but you'd expect there to be some upside. Removing 3 threat isn't really anything. We have other cards that will remove 2 threat for 1 cost and do something else. Are we saying that 1 cost is only worth 1 threat removal? Because that's terrible. Yeah, I would not play this. Passion for Justice. When you spend this card to play a thwart event, that event removes 1 additional threat. We've seen something very similar to this before. I don't think that's enough benefit to really run this. We're looking for a benefit more like the protection event, where if you spend it to use a defense card, defensive energy. If you spend it to use a defense card, you get a card draw. That's more the value we're looking for, and a card draw is much more valuable than 1 threat removal. Professor X we've seen before. X Mansion we've seen before. Beauty and the Thief. Gambit Rogue team up. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. Remove 4 threat from a scheme for 2 cost. That's great value. Would definitely play this in a Gambit Rogue multiplayer comp, but as always, team ups are tough to set up in solo. Hit and Run, 3 cost event, deal 2 damage to an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme. That's too little value for its cost, which always tends to be the case for basic events. We're looking for more than 4 in value for 3 cost. We're looking for more like 8. So this is terribly undercosted for its cost. Mutant Education, 0 cost event, alter ego action, choose up to 2 identity specific cards in your discard pile and shuffle them into your deck. If expansion is in play, draw 1 card. If expansion is in play, you get good value for this card. It's just a cycle, 1 cycle card, but even if you were running expansion, I don't think I would run this. Although this gains value in a multiplayer game because expansion doesn't have to be under your control; it can be under anybody's control. So this is probably more of a multiplayer focused card. Even in the perfect situation, it's really just a cycle card. I don't put a lot of value on shuffling 2 identity cards into your discard pile, or into your deck from your discard pile. So even in multiplayer, I don't know that I would run this. I probably wouldn't, because you just need alter ego actions to have a huge amount of value to justify switching to alter ego. Think of it this way concerning alter ego. You're trying to limit the progress that the boss makes each round as much as possible. So if you're in hero mode and you're playing a hero with 3 defense and the boss attacks you and you defend successfully and take no damage, well, then the only progress that the boss made that round was the encounter card, which always happens no matter if you're in hero mode or alter ego, and then 1 threat on the main scheme. That's no problem, usually. If you were in alter ego mode, you take 1 threat, then the boss also schemes, typically for about 4, and then you recover for like 3. So you've taken 3 recovery, but you've added 4 threat to the main scheme. What I'm saying is that typically, on average, the boss will make more progress against you when you are in alter ego mode than when you are in hero mode. And that means that the alter ego actions need to be very, very efficient in order for us to want to flip to alter ego. Because the boss's actions are going to be more efficient when we're in alter ego. So our actions need to be more efficient to counter the boss. Otherwise, we're going to just want to stay in hero mode all the time, where we can more effectively counter what the boss wants to do. And this alter ego action is not to the level of hyper efficiency that we need in order for us to want to switch to alter ego. There's really only a couple of alter ego actions that are at that level, like Spider Ham's. Wolverine's is right on the border with his 6 recovery. This doesn't get us there. And we got any other aspect cards here? We do. We've got War Room. 1 cost support, 1 per player after an ally attacks and defeats a minion. Exhaust War Room. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. Okay, if you could get 6 of these out of it, then it would be quite good. It's not as good as Hard to Ignore, which is probably the nearest comparable, because you know the boss is going to attack every round, and you can usually reliably defend if you're playing a strong defense champion, so you can get Hard to Ignore off every round, and you're not limited to 1 Hard to Ignore per player. You're not always going to have an ally attack and defeat a minion every turn, so Hard to Ignore is much higher value. It's hard to make this have good value. You'd have to do it like 4 times. Will you have allies attack and defeat more minions 4 times in a game? Some scenarios, but some scenarios definitely not. Like Sabretooth, for example, doesn't have a lot of minions. So, depends on the scenario. Maybe Ultron, this would be good against. This is the major problem with aggression, is that its effects only happen off of conditions that are not reliable. X-Men Instruction, 0 cost event. That's funny art. Play only if your identity has the mutant trait. Alter ego action. Choose up to 2 X-Men allies in your discard pile and shuffle them into your deck. If X-Mansion is in play, draw 1 card. This, I would say exactly the same thing about this as I said about the other card that I just soapboxed on, Mutant Education. I say the same thing about X-Men Instruction. It's not efficient enough for us to want to flip to alter ego and give the boss that progress. So overall, Gambit is intriguing. His aspect cards are not good with the exception of Bishop and Dazzler. In fact, they're kind of bizarrely not good. But Bishop is a great addition to the Justice aspect. Doesn't get Justice up to the level of leadership or protection, but it's a great addition. And Gambit looks very strong defensively. Hard to say in terms of his threat removal. We'll have to try him out. And sporadically good in terms of his attack. So definitely a hero I'm interested in playtesting, and I'll withhold judgment until then, but he definitely looks like an above average hero at least. So thank you for watching.